spot, so deranged. Shoot my shot with perfect aim. Third degree, that perfect flame. Ain't no sleep, that's the game. Oh, so southern, that's the slang. When they see me, that's the main. Chasing checks and fly like planes. Big old stick, I bought a cane. Flick my wrist and bought the ring. I'm so boss, we're not the same. Paid the cost and kept the change. Now I'm walking Hall of Fame. And I reside in the cloud. Grand wishes with these bitches. Taking pictures with the crowd, and I'm out.
Yo, 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 yo.
Yo.
Peace and blessings to the good people. Happy Thursday. I hope all is well. Shout outs to my poets, writers, content creators, all that good stuff, man. Max, salutes to you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
I hope all is well. How's your week been so far, bro?
It's been kind of wild, man. I'm okay. God's showing a lot of grace, man. I'm just, yeah, we alive. So that's a blessing right now. How are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm powering through, bro. Powering
I hear
through.
you. No hat today? I'm shocked.
I know, right? I mean, it's too hot right now. I did enough sweating today, so I'm just like, let me go ahead and give my scalp a little break.
Yeah, I hear you.
I wanted to switch it up though, man. We spoke about doing that this week, and I was like, you know what? I got something that might be interesting. So this is the question that I posed to you, and let's have a go at it, bro. Can WWE right now outdo the attitude and ruthless aggression, or is it asking for too much? Has wrestling reached its peak? We just start opening thoughts. Anything, man, you wanna say?
Oh man. Well, it depends. Well, if you're strictly talking WWE, I think they are. I think they haven't reached the peak. I think like everything has its peaky moments. There is always going to be something that never stays high up all the time because like anything else, everything's a roller coaster. I mean, bro, if we was, you know, happy all the time, and it ain't heaven, that's probably gonna be put into question sometimes. Not that, we gotta be depressed, but my point being everything's gonna have a peak and a plateau. Even movies for a while, one of the reasons why movies changed. Someone made a good analysis that one of the things that caused movies to shift in the way that they're made was that transition from the 50s into the 60s. Because a good number of that decade didn't have the greatest movies coming into the theaters. There was a decade of where it was just like, for a while. The 40s I think was the peak, and then it just kind of dropped a little bit after that, with very few hits. And then the 60s brought a whole different tone to cinema. And then you started seeing different things. Things reflect their movies usually reflect their the society at that time. But forgive me for digressing. Can they outdo 20 years ago? I think in some ways they could, because what made back then greater was the overall athleticism and a perfect merge of that with character. It's like they took the 80s and just added more modernization to what people see. Like it wasn't. It was more. I want to say Ruthless Aggression era was the PG-13 version of whatever the '90s was doing. I didn't watch wrestling at that time, unfortunately, but I could say that it is possible for them to outdo that because they have a lot of great athletes now, and if as long as they utilize them, you can bring some of you can bring the edginess of the 2000s back without while keeping away most of the raunchiness. Um, not for nothing. It wasn't all suitable for children. They try to be more family friendly now, overall, but still, I think they could. What do you think? I mean, I don't know how often you watch it nowadays, but
So we could completely honest. It's been maybe 2.5 years since I've actually watched a full live program. Period.
WrestleMania 40.
Nah, my last official match was Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns on SmackDown.
Really?
It was
Oh wow,
for
that's years ago.
yeah, it was for his career.
That was more than 2 years ago.
Yeah, I lost track of time. It's been a while.
Yeah, because Daniel Bryan's in AEW now, or at
Right.
least I think he's retired. I don't remember.
I was already losing my love for it then because I felt like they were losing a lot of what you described.
Mm-hmm.
They rushed through their promos. The chemistry between certain wrestlers and rivalries made no sense. The pay-per-view started to get weird with the titles. They removed certain elements and stipulations that made it edgier. The PG stuff just completely messed it up for me. And then you oversaturated the business with certain wrestlers, choking the life out of everybody else that you had on the roster, not giving them an opportunity. Long story short, I just, to me personally, they have the roster. They do. I see there's a lot of people that they got that could really do some major things. I'm a fan of Oba.
Oh, Femi, yeah.
Um, I see a couple names here and there, but as far as them outshining, I don't see that ever happening. Um,
Oh, the new guys outshining the previous generation.
not based off of like in ring or nothing like that. I just don't believe that they have the creative to pull it off. Like the writing to me today is nowhere near as good as it was even 20 years ago. Like, and maybe it's because to me, a lot of these wrestlers, they don't have the type of control over their character as they did once before. So it's hard for me to really connect with them. But as far as in the ring, yeah, they're probably super dope. But I'm seeing that there's a lot of botches. I'm hearing there's a lot of injuries. There's just a lot of inconsistencies that I've noticed that would really make it hard for me to believe that they could pull off Austin coming out on a monster truck, pouring cement in the McMahon's car, or having the buried alive type matches. I don't see them being able to recreate anything like that.
You feel like they lack in character? Is that what it is?
That's one aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Wait, was there more that you were gonna say? Sorry.
I mean, no, you can go ahead. That's just my initial thought.
Okay. No, like I will say I watched it from 2012 to now. And the funny thing is I was enjoying the era that people considered not very good. The very soap opera era when John Cena was put in the weird situation with AJ Lee and things like that. When she was like the little menace among the men's roster. And she was like the only one that, respectfully speaking, was like practically the only interesting character because everyone else was either a model or they didn't have a character that stood out to most of the crowd. Now, I will say that I think they not I don't think they know how to I'm not sure if the characters know how to utilize how to reflect the current society. Like I remember Tyler Breeze, right? He had a gimmick that was very flamboyant, but what I liked was that he was doing this whole thing where he just selfie cammed himself all the time. And it's stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's something that our generation would do now. Like, take what your generation would do and just put it into your character. Because then it just becomes, because then you risk becoming you risk becoming a little generic. But it depends on what appeals to people. Because the thing is, I think people cling on to, and I'm seeing this online a lot. They're clinging on to what made the '90s more interesting. But I remember John Moxley even said this on a podcast. I think it was on Talk Is Jericho. This is when he was Dean Ambrose in WWE. He said, like, he liked ECW better because it was more fixated on wrestling and being extreme and character, while WWE was doing mainly a lot of sexual and raunchy things. That's what made them interesting because they were catering to a very hormonal demographic. They're catering to teenagers. The 90s was about being a little rebellious, a lot of prosperity in areas, a lot of degenerate behaviors, or at least what we considered such. So, and this is not to diss, our generation, but not for nothing. It's just look at the movies. The movies give you an idea of what was popular, what stood out. It was a little bit of everything. And I get that the Attitude Era was kind of doing a lot of stuff. I guess because they pushed the envelope at that time, it was like, whoa, like it was seen as a pushing the envelope kind of era. And you never see anything like that since. And you could say that even for some guys. I think like this era, like Cody Rhodes utilizing the fact that it really depends on how you're gonna write stuff. Him utilizing the fact that his father never won the biggest title in WWE, it is like it felt like a classic like knight story. Like I will avenge for my father what he never got to accomplish. I will do what he never got to accomplish. Roman Reigns, I think it's a little bit of like you're gonna have your characters that know how to stand out, but I think it's like you gotta learn how to get past the teething phase of building the new characters that will soon follow the existing roster. And the interesting thing is that I was reading Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and they talked about how their thing with WWE is that I think AEW has this fault too, that WWE is heavily relying on guys who are relatively not as young as the younger guys. Like all their top guys are in their 40s. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, This was when he was still here before he retired. Um, so I mean, Brock was here and there, but I mean, I still find it impressive that they could go in their 40s. I think that's a gift. I think that's a blessing. If you could still go at it like that at that age, that's not old. I mean, Damian Priest, I love that dude, and he's in his 40s, and he's peaking. I feel low key. He still has more chances to peak, but my point is like because they're relying so heavily on guys that are older, which goes back to the trope that they kept bringing legends back just to boost sales, which became the common complaint online. In a way, they kind of still risk that with the current roster, but the reality is that the whole point was to make sure that the current roster thrives because now is when Cody is peaking. But I think it tells the story a little bit of the fact that like you know um God's timing is not our timing, and you know obviously not all these guys are Christian, but my point being is that the fact that this is their peaking, this is still their prime. It's like, okay, enjoy the ride, but make sure you water the new generation. Obafemi, Jay Evans, not Carlito, Trick Williams, a lot of their high flying guys. Because you're kind of slowly losing. You're going to start slowly losing whoever was young in the 2000s. Um, it's like someone pointed out that they're not. They have to make sure that they're meeting. They're rising up to where they could come face to face with the current top stars and eventually be their predecessors. Like guys like Paul Heyman and the managers, they could stick around for forever. Paul Heyman is a huge asset because he's the managing side, and he even said it himself. He's having fun. He gets to be creative without too much of the responsibility. He's able to give input without having to be the sole responsible one for everybody's outcome. But he's able to be a mentor. He's able to bring his genius from ECW and still not have to be in charge of everything. And it's just a matter of knowing how to make sure that these guys elevate to where they need to. I think they're trying to. I think they low key are trying to. It's just for me, I personally think that they I would like to see WWE consider treating their sport a little bit like a TV show for a while, like Lucha Underground did, because they did seasons. I think it's just a creative burnout. From my perspective as an artist, I think that's the burnout because even the most visionary guys in the industry have a peak and they have a plateau. I love James Cameron, right? His movies are amazing, if nothing else visually. To this day, Titanic is heavily more celebrated than Avatar. Avatar is just good visionary material for his fan base. Titanic is like the perfect example of going all out because he did things that we don't know if we'll ever see again. Building sets to that scale. No, I don't think anyone's done that again. No one has ever done that again to this day. So, I would say like, bring when I think of the late Bray Wyatt, he was bringing a perspective that I think was missing a little bit since the Undertaker, who was always in kayfabe, always like, I mean, I get it, they're trying to blur the lines, but it's like if you allow yourself to just enjoy being an actor, being being in character, you could really bring a different perspective to the sport. You know, I don't know what more
Glad you,
thoughts you got, but
I'm glad you brought up Bray. Um,
mm,
that really broke my heart, man. They pissed me
oh,
off. beyond measure. That was a rare gem, and they absolutely dropped the ball 100% with that in so many ways. When I think about character development, engaging the audience, in-ring psychology, theme music, overall gimmick, relatability, he was the closest thing to it that I had seen in years. And I mean years. And y'all just so fixated on Roman Reigns, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I understand y'all like a certain physique, a certain type of look of a person, but you were force feeding him to the general public. He wasn't getting over like y'all wanted him to. I'm not even. We can say Cena as well was included in this, and others like him. You force feed these people, but while you're doing that, you're not giving others the opportunity to shine like they could. I felt like as time progressed, they started getting more desperate. And the reason why you were getting desperate is because you stopped really focusing on a variety of different styles and backgrounds. You were more concerned about the main title. So your attention started to be focused on one or two people, maybe. The rest of the roster began to just go off into the wilderness. The comment that you had made about WWE being raunchy back in the day, yeah, it was definitely very sexually charged. Yeah, the moves were limited to a certain extent, but the wrestling, we can't take away the wrestling because there was great matches. 1, 2, 3 Kid, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels ladder match.
Yep.
I mean, I can go on with a list of rivalries and feuds.
Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar.
Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit. I know nobody wants that. That's a taboo thing, but you can't.
I didn't know he fought him.
Like, they put on some exceptional matches, and they didn't have to do a whole bunch of flips and things of that nature. Hell, even the cruiserweight division, the Intercontinental title division, the US division, the European, the hardcore, like you had so many different, like if you wasn't tuned in for the main fight, you still had like 3 or 4 other drinks that you could look at and be like, oh yeah, this is about to be one of those.
Yeah.
You don't have that now. I think they're trying to do it. And to be fair, if the roster or like the setup they have now was back then, they didn't have the women's tag team titles back then. If they had that back then,
that'd be extremely amazing.
Yeah,
because you had Trish and Lita who were like the main scene for the women.
Trish, Lita, Jacqueline,
Mickey James,
Victoria, Beth Phoenix,
Michelle McCool.
I know people got. I don't know what y'all got against her. But there's people out there that can't stand Michelle McCool for some reason. But I thought she was decent in the ring.
Yeah. She looked no, I mean, from the stuff I saw, she looked like she could execute great matches. I mean, I didn't see wrestling back then when she was around like that. I
She was
missed
good.
the season. I missed the years where it apparently was watchable, but I wasn't into it until I heard, oh, The Rock and Cena are gonna fight together. I was like, what? Because I knew who Cena was just from popularity, and I knew The Rock like that. I was like, oh, I want to see that. That got me into it. And I'm like, oh man, the one thing CM Punk used to complain about. It was the thing, like the funny thing. I'm like, well, not for nothing. It got my attention, and I never used to watch wrestling before that match.
Yeah, the women's division was more. It was more sexual based, but like they still had some pretty good feuds back then. The writing to me was far exceeding what they do now. Something that you said I want to mention too before I forget. They definitely need a reset with their creativity. I don't know what, but when you know it's bad when you're trying to recreate moments from 20 years ago. I should not be seeing Xavier Woods or one of these new groups trying to do what DOA did or do what the Acolytes did. I should not be seeing that. I shouldn't be seeing you trying to reform the I don't know how I just let it slip. Not DX, but the group with Triple H and Batista, Orton, and Ric
Oh,
Flair.
Evolution.
Evolution. I shouldn't be seeing that. Y'all had the Hurt Business. The Hurt Business was fucking fire. I dug that. I dropped the ball with that. It's like,
oh, but they became the New Day.
No. They ended up splitting, leaving the company, going over to AEW. The thing with the New Day was I didn't even like the New Day when they started that BS. They only grew on me because it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
They made it a little humorous at some point. And then it's like I wanted to see more serious black champions, black wrestlers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of this goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I think they need a whole reset with their writing. Oh, for real. And I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying because that's the common complaint. Apparently, it's been circled around that they're using AI to write stories. I'm just like, bro, AI can produce very generic things. It's a good tool. Like I use ChatGPT to help me with a script idea, like for ideas. I have a whole project on there that I'm like, yo, help me figure this out. What would this look like? It makes it sound like what I'm saying is like, oh, that sounds amazing. And I'm like, okay, I do think what I'm coming up with is actually amazing. Personally, but it's like AI is not going to produce the greatest writing. It can give you an idea, but I wouldn't solely rely on it because someone actually made an analysis that when you write strictly with AI, because this is when the writer's strike happened with the Screen Actors Guild, Writers Guild. They were talking about how like they used Wednesday Adams show as an example. The way the writing happens with a person versus what AI produces. AI ends up telling instead of just showing, while real writing is showing without telling, because that the acting will tell you what the relationship is between each character. AI will generically expose things that is the actor's job to show. And so they run the risk of that. I don't know how far that goes. That's the rumor that goes around. I don't know how true it is. because a lot of things get said now. Like dirt sheets will produce a lot of stuff, and half of it may not even be true.
That's
I know
another
Triple
thing.
H. I know Triple H talks about it. Like he's always like, the internet's gonna say what it wants and things like that. He would throw, he would make comments about it. And the funny thing is, I remember CM Punk talking about how years ago when he was a heel with Paul Heyman, 2013, I believe, they made fun of when Jerry the King Lawler actually had a heart attack or cardiac arrest on TV. I think I remember that. And he had
I
come
watched.
back and they made fun of it. And their comment was, you guys always say you want the Attitude Era, so I'm bringing that kind of behavior back. And everyone thought it was not funny. Now, I don't know if he was just being careless or he's actually making a point, because there could be an argument made about CM Punk, aka Phil Brooks. Apparently, he gets bothered by people using his real name, but they're really utilizing the history of these guys. Like now that he has his beef with half the people, apparently, it it brings new life to the storylines. Like Kevin Owens and him on last week, they had a great promo going back and forth because they had the history for it. And when you let people use a little more of their personal stuff without being too personal, which I think is what they're actually trying to do now with the writing, it works. Sometimes they go too far, and they could get like slapped on the wrist for it. But when they let them do that, it helps the stories tremendously a little bit, because now you're bringing some reality to the situation. If you're not doing anything else, if you're not creating an extravagant character, bring some reality to what you already are.
That's cool and all, but where are your? Like I said, I ain't watched it in a few years, so I
Mhm.
can name a small handful of people. I was happy to hear AJ Lee came back, but like I
Mm.
don't know what's going on with that.
I
Um,
think she's just part time, but it was great to see her back.
I seen Paige came back. Don't know what's going on with that.
Tag
Um,
team with Brie Bella, but that kind of, I think they lost the titles. I was surprised that they just threw her in with her. I thought Paige was gonna do something else, but there's always room for her to do something else.
that's the shit that I'm talking about. That did that even really make sense? That to me is uninspired and lazy. You just threw her with her because what? They came in around the same time or whatever the case may be. No, Brie and Nikki Bella were terrible wrestlers to me. Like,
Yeah,
and I mean
they got a little better over time. Yeah,
that's I
they got
mean
yeah. No, they were eye candy back in the day apparently,
yeah.
and they
To me they were Eva Marie.
oh my god, you
They
know
were
what?
Eva.
I'm sorry, nah, even Marie was worse. Nikki, here's the thing, Nikki and Brie, I give them some respect. I give them respect because they actually tried eventually. They got better towards the end of their career, but like that those last few years that they were being utilized, they actually you could see the effort in their athleticism. If the character doesn't work, they try with their athleticism, especially Nikki. Nikki had her own style. Brie kind of like went with they try to utilize what they took from the from the reality show, like where she goes Brie mode and
I
where she screams
hated
Brie mode, even though she says that because that's what she's wasted. I'm like, oh no, I'm like, okay. I at that time I thought, it would be good if they use the stories from the reality show and then bring it to the ring. Then maybe there could be some relevance there for the girls, something to do at that time, because this is like 10 years ago. I was watching that, but I was like, you know what? I don't know if Brie mode is a good idea, because the way we introduced to that was you stumbling to your hotel room, blinding Daniel Bryan with the camera, and you're all like Brie mode, and you were wasted with the girls. I'm like, oh no,
it.
no.
It would have been interesting if she was like a drunken type of wrestler or something. Like she had a wrestling drunken master style or some shit like that. I don't know, but
I don't
like
think that would have been good. I don't think so. That would have been
told
horrible.
it told
Her being wasted the whole time would be horrible.
I'm not saying like literally be drunk, but like I'm thinking because it's making me think of like Tekken or something. Like you got a character that just has like this kind of a wrestling like fighting style that made them look like they were weird, but it was their thing. Like Santino Morella.
Oh yeah,
this shit right here don't do nothing for real, but
yeah, it's funny.
It worked.
It was a gimmick. Yeah, like I get it. You mean like you want gimmicks again that work?
Yeah, and
yeah,
most of the people they got scripts, they got all that, but I don't even know if that's really them or not. It just come off like, here we're just gonna give you this. You do go out there and memorize this shit, and then just get it out the way.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I gotta be honest. Like I miss the characters that are like not like their real counterparts. Like it's like I see what you mean. Like Undertaker was always Undertaker. You don't know what Mark. I don't know how to say his last name. You don't know what the real guy is like.
Right.
What?
Calloway.
You know, for Calloway, yeah, my bad. Mark Calloway. You don't know what Mark Calloway is, and he's actually very chill. But as Undertaker, he was just stone cold. Looked like he was gonna kill you. You know what the funny thing is? When you talked about Roman Reigns back in the day, there was a point I would have never predicted Bray Wyatt dying at such a young age. But when I saw him and Roman Reigns face off in the back, I think they were about to have a match because this is when Roman was in the Shield. I was looking at them and I'm like, you know what? I could see Roman being the face. Like, I think the problem was that they didn't let him just be intimidating looking. I think because they were such in a hurry to do something else with him that wasn't fitting to his demeanor that it didn't work. Because for me, I looked at those two and I'm like, I see him as like their version of Batman because he was just quiet and just, I'll see you in the ring. Like he'll just talk when he needed to talk. And Bray was just there like, you are very interesting. He had that type vibe to him, even though he was Swamp Guy. And I was like, that's not to endorse evil, but I love that they had that vibe. They had like a Joker and Batman vibe just from that interaction. To me personally, I don't care what anyone says. If you look back at their backstage interaction when they were still coming up at the same time, I just saw like I could see these two being the faces of the company because they were literally looking like yin and yang at that point. And like I couldn't say Austin and Rock comparison because they were a completely different vibe. Batman and Joker feels more relevant because Roman was calm and cool and collected and intimidating, while Bray was just he was coming the face of fear, like kind of like what Undertaker was for the '90s and 2000s, but he was still like eccentric. They looked like perfect opposites to each other at that time. If Bray could, I know Bray got to face him in 2020 because I think Roman took the belt off of him, which is how he became the tribal chief. The whole gimmick that he has now is perfect, and I'm glad that he was able to be like, I have an idea. I don't want to come back until I can actually turn heel then, because they didn't let him be a bad guy. It's very hard to push a guy as good because there has to be something edgy. The reason why I worked for Cena was because even though he was a heel, he was pulling off stuff that the demographic can relate to. He was a white boy rapper. For real, also. He actually did a rap album, but he brought that in a way where it worked for what he was doing. And they didn't let Roman do that right away. If Roman could have been the tribal chief back then, or at least the attitude that he carries now, back then, it probably would have been a different story. He probably would have gotten over. But I think they tried to script him too much at that time. I know Vince has he had a particular look, way he wanted to do things, like you said, like physique and stuff like that. But I think the problem is that you fall into a trope. Like I know people don't like this man, Hulk Hogan, because of the stuff that he said back then. But I'm recalling a moment to make a point here. When you look at his interaction with Andre the Giant before WrestleMania 3, what led to that fight, it was like a good example of like a portrayal, like you don't come. And it's like when you know how to utilize their real life history, that's what works. Like what they're doing now with some of the guys, especially with Punk, it works because Punk, look, I don't know if you saw his stuff back in the day, but he made a name for himself by being very controversial.
Oh, the pipe bombs and all that.
Yeah, the pipe bomb. Yeah, that and what followed. I didn't see 2011. I didn't watch wrestling in 2011, but I was there watching his stuff the year before he decided to walk out. And because he walked out, because of the impact he made, I think what he fails to realize, or maybe he does realize it, but I think he's not allowing himself to. I don't know what's true. I don't know if he just plays up a thing, or he's just has a different mindset now because he's he's in his 40s. But I think like there's something to pay attention to the fact that he left a mark in the industry where it hurt some people personally. You left a group of friends or people who considered you a mentor. You walked, which it made sense why you walked, but I think it's just that it still leaves a scar for some people. Seth Rollins, the Shield pretty much had something to do with him. He had someone else in mind instead of Roman Reigns, but the Shield had something to do with Punk. And Seth, I don't know how much of what Seth Rollins said on TV is true, because they were trying to keep kayfabe alive. But if there's truth to the fact that he feels hurt by him, or he kind of has a personal difference with him, then I understand why. He has all this history with people, so every other opponent that he has now, they go back to that, what their personal relationship is with him from back then and now, because he comes from that world that the other guys came from. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, a lot of the guys who came from the independent circuit, he comes from that circuit too. He comes from that generation. Kevin Owens, especially, and Sami Zayn, they all came from Ring of Honor. I think even one point AJ Styles. AJ Styles was more becoming the face of TNA, but they still come from that circuit. So him leaving and talking bluntly how he did, even when he came back, it made room for being used for to be the target of like, look what you did. You're the villain in our story now, and what's good is that we don't know how much of it is true. We don't know if they're just utilizing what we want to see, or if this is how they really feel about him now. Like, there's very few pieces that can be made because everyone's coming from a different angle now. But some guys are characters, but it's just like it's always one or two traits sometimes.
You notice how we only talking about what, 2 or 3 people?
Yeah,
we ain't mentioned Braun Strowman. We ain't mentioned Cesaro. We ain't mentioned Dolph Ziggler. We ain't mentioned Daniel Bryan. We ain't mentioned what's his name? I can't think of it. It's like 2 or 3 other people I'm missing.
Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder, he can't, if I'm not mistaken, they just brought him back and they just doo-dooed on him again. It was like
Yeah,
You made
I don't.
you made
Yeah,
you made
yeah.
Jinder
He's like,
you made Jinder Hall a champion. You made
yeah. Jinder Mahal was that was a whole nother layer because he just came back looking mad brawling all of a sudden. I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like, because he was part of the 3-man band. They were a gimmick. Yeah, it's true. I know what you mean. Like, I think it's just because Dolph is not there right now. Because Dolph Ziggler, he's a great wrestler. I love some of his matches. I remember when he was the sole survivor for Survivor Series, and they just missed the mark to just have him win the Royal Rumble that year.
it
And
shouldn't have
instead,
been
it should have
after
been
that.
him.
Exactly, pun intended.
Yeah, it should have been him because I know this is years ago, but the administration has changed since. So you know, it's like you missed the mark there, not for nothing. Because like Daniel Bryan got pushed, and I think Punk. I don't know if he takes the credit or he has credit to give legitimately, but it's like he left, and then Daniel Bryan was pushed to the main event that same year. Like now he's white hot, and they used him at that time. They utilized Daniel Bryan, but it's like it feels like a cause and effect. Like if Punk didn't leave, would they have still done that? Would they have pushed Daniel Bryan the way they did? Because Punk left a hole in the industry, and then all these other guys came in. Like Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro. Cesaro was great. I missed that dude. I wanted to see him go at it. Like I remember when Brock Lesnar was dominating the Royal Rumble and they finally got to face each other. I was like, okay, perfect opportunity to do that. And he barely got to do anything with Brock. It's like whoever staged it at the time, it's like, bro, let them have some moments. I know that Brock Lesnar's a beast, but it's like let other guys have something. I remember I saw a live event in MSG where it was Kevin Owens versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title, which I was shocked to see Brock Lesnar at a non-televised show because he wasn't wrestling all the time there. I think at the time, and it wasn't a long match, but I love that Kevin Owens was able to do something. But I'm just like, I wish it was longer. It was like literally 5 minutes. And yeah, I know what you mean. Like we talk about 2 or 3 guys, but I'm going by the fact like who's still there because Dolph is not there. He's Nick Nemeth now. I think he's in TNA or somewhere else. He left a couple of years ago now. He's been gone. Sheamus left recently, and I love Sheamus. Sheamus is one of the few guys who's like you can kind of. I feel like I believe his character is very much him, like Celtic warrior. Like I'm always ready for a fight type of stuff. Like he just brought brute. He just brought like a brute. Like I'm ready.
Bro, he should. Sheamus is the only one that should have had that type of a character. Drew McIntyre should never have had that shit. That whatever that he should have.
The Scottish psychopath thing.
That bullshit.
I don't feel it. I don't feel
it. Bro, he should have stayed the chosen one. The chosen one was it.
I gotta look that back. Yeah.
And the chosen one was the one. Him and Cody, when they were tag team champions back in the day, Cody was a better version of himself then than he is now, in my honest opinion. Before he left, before the Stardust bullshit, before he went over there to AEW,
we had the mustache.
He used to stare in the mirror and all that shit. He conceded as Cody. Yeah, I
he had like that Rick Rude. He had a Rick Rude vibe.
Yeah, but for some reason, they be tampering with stuff that they should just leave alone. Baron Corbin.
Oh yeah, he came back. Actually, he came back.
He got a title, right?
Yeah, he beat I think he beat Trick Williams for the US title. I heard it was a good match though. I didn't get to watch it, but I heard it was a very good match on SmackDown. Like he came back now. Sometimes that just happens. Sometimes guys just need to leave and come back. Because Cody benefited from leaving. But yeah, had they kept him being the chosen one, that probably could have stuck. But now he's like his American Nightmare gimmick, I think is just it's his way of being a company face while not being John Cena. Um, like he's very patriotic and not in the military, like because John was more like military type, patriotic because he's a product of post 9/11 situations. Um, with the war in Iraq, so he had that look like he could look like a military guy. Cody is more like he's like Superman for wrestling. Just that look because he has a cape. He has like this. He has like this king, fighting king type vibe.
He's like,
Just because of
to
the way
me,
his fit is.
to
But I
me,
think
he's
it's
like
still
a,
like because it's a trip. Is that being mixed with being a tribute to his dad? I think that's what it is. Sorry, what
he
were you gonna
comes
say?
off he comes off like a born version of King Booker to me.
Oh my god!
Like
King,
he
a boring version of King Booker.
yeah, like because you described him like he's like this post-apocalyptic president that's supposed to save the world from the aliens or some shit.
I didn't think
But
about that. Yeah, he does sound like he does look like that.
like I keep hearing people say he born now. I
It's
could be wrong.
yeah. Well, no, it depends on who you talk to. I still find him entertaining. He's becoming edgier though. I think it's like when the character can become a little stale, he's becoming more. He's allowing himself to be more angrier, more edgier now. Like he's dealing with Randy Orton. Like he had a good comeback to him, where he's like, look around you. You are the last legend in this industry right now, and you call yourself the Legend Killer. So here's a question: who kills you? And we're like, oh dang. And it's like, wow, that's true. Like he's the last guy from 2004. He's literally the last guy from 2002, 2004. Because everyone else has left, has retired. John Cena retired before Randy Orton, and I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, no, it makes sense because Cena predates. I think he predates Randy Orton if he came
Yeah.
in 2004. So and Randy could still go. The dude knows how to take care of himself. But yeah, like that's the thing. Like everyone relies on the familiar characters because some guys just know what they're doing. But I think it's just that. I think the issue is that they're trying to bring more legitimacy to the wrestling, where I would never call it fake. It's very insulting because it's still sports. And I think they're trying to put it up there with, because I think they're owned by TKO, they're trying to put it up there with UFC, or they're trying to treat it as such. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I like the fact that you try to bring in more relevant, because for the longest WWE professional wrestling was something that was just very dismissed. In the last 2 years, it's become very relevant again, and everyone's gonna have a plateau. And I know what you mean, because I'm just like I know I'm like, oh dude, if I was a wrestler, I already know what I would do. I already know what I'm gonna do, and I feel like they need it. And quite frankly, like some sometimes the change in administration, it shows, because Vince is not there anymore. Triple H and a bunch of other guys are in charge now. His generation guys, him and HBK are pretty much running things. HBK runs NXT and he runs the main roster. But I think it's just like, try to use what works for you, I think. Because Vince McMahon as as on the creative side, because I know he has a lot of stuff on him right now. But from the creative side, as a businessman side, he had his own work ethic. And I think, like, I know that, Triple H is his son-in-law and things like that. I think he was around the stuff where it's about just always going. And it makes sense because he comes from a generation where there was like no days off. But he's trying to make it easier for his wrestlers. I would say, like, use a different strategy. If you're still trying to be too much, if you find yourself trying to be too much like your father-in-law as far as the business side goes, try to really see, does this really work for you in the long run? He's not the sole creator, but he's the head of a big department that has a lot to do with the stories. So respectfully to Paul Levesque, it's a question to just put out there for you. I know we're fans here, but from one artistic mind to potentially another, like, what what do you think still works for you, honestly, and what do you see not working for you? What helps you stay working without risking going crazy? Vince McMahon was known to just be on the go all the time. Not He even spoke of having insomnia, and those are his words too. Like, even Punk talked about that at one point, because he used to be like, I don't sleep. I'm always just looking for stuff. He was always like just up there. So, because I'm like, are you finding yourself doing your own thing, or are you trying to copy something from someone else that you admire because you worked for them and you're married into the family? You know, not as a diss, but just as, like, something. It's influence. Like, how much of the influence do you see yourself taking from versus what you are individually bringing to the table that works? If there's not a balance there, then it's something to reset on. Because now I heard Raw was good and SmackDown was good. I haven't watched it religiously because life gets in the way. I miss the days of watching it religiously, but I try to keep up as best as possible. And I think they're trying to transition properly. It's just there's a lot of teething to do. I think. I mean, this is there are guys who just straight up will say this show sucks and this guy's to blame. And I'm like, you know what? Looking at the stuff that is working and what they're possibly going into, I think it's just a teething thing too. It's good because it's a new administration. I know it's been a couple of years of the new administration, but there's still things that carry over from the previous one. So I think until the entire new administration is in charge, you're probably not going to see a dramatic change yet. But it depends. Like, are you looking for a recreation of the past, or are you just looking for something that just stands out? Something for the fans to ask themselves.
I'll end with this. When it's all said and done, can you put a list of 5 people in this era next to everyone that passed that has created the same type of moments, has generated the same type of revenue, had the same type of impact, the same level of competition, rivalries, feuds, storylines? Do they stand out in such a way that when you had this argument, with entirely new group. This is who I remember for doing this and doing that. They would never be able to get in the ring with this person or that person. It would be eclipsed completely. I can only name or think of maybe potentially one or two people that anybody would really ever mention. Is going to be Roman Reigns, because, well, they made sure that they were going to shove him in everybody's face. He broke records and all types of shit. They're going to name him, and I can't really think of nobody else. Like, I'm trying to be unbiased with it. I'm not talking about people like Orton and Brock and them. I'm talking about from when the Shield got there and up. Is there anybody that stands out that you could say did anything anywhere near as remarkable as what the Attitude or the Ruthless Aggression did? Guarantee the answer is no.
I think the argument would be, for me, I think it was Bray Wyatt. For me personally, I think it was him. I have three that I would pick, like, or maybe even four. Honestly, I'm gonna say him. Maybe this is biased, but this is just the vibe that they all brought. Him, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins.
Bro, didn't they just shit on Sami Zayn though?
They did, but well, yeah, he had a title for like 9 days, and people got really mad at that. It was like, bro, he had the top belt for like 9 days. What's up with that? But there's room for that. There's room for them to come back. It could just be it could be part of the story. I'm like, look, I'm gonna see, because he's in a storyline where it involves Kevin coming back. Kevin's a contender, and Sammy's probably gonna throw himself back into that mix, because Punk came back after hiatus and took the title. But people feel like Sammy got set up for failure. But for me personally, because I grew up watching Sami Zayn, because he came out into WWE when I was like, just in college. So him, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins is an individual wrestler, and Bray Wyatt, I believe personally, brought a different flavor, because Sammy brought a more like authentic self type characters. Him and Kevin Owens. Bray kept a character alive type stuff, because he was the only one that was kind of living like that. Because even outside the ring, even though he wasn't like Bray, he wasn't the character all the time, but his demeanor kind of still had a lot of mystery to him. Because when you met him, he was like, he still talked a certain way, man, and he still remained a mystery. But I think people could argue that he was the standout, and it's a loss.
I agree.
If you're talking this generation, Seth, I think, as far as the ones that are still around, I think Seth is up there, because he did a lot. He has done a lot in 10 years. I do feel like the knee injury messed him up, because he was a different animal back then. He's still great, but you could still see the difference, and I don't think it's just because he's 40. But the styles, because everyone's different.
If let's be real, if they wasn't friends with Triple H, they would. And like, as far as I'm concerned, Seth Rollins can kick rocks, because
oh my,
he broke Cena's nose. He messed up Sting's neck. Like, this man then handed out so many injuries, bro, and still got all these opportunities. And I'm like, yeah, it's just the Shield stuff. That's what I always hated about that whole Shield thing.
You didn't like the group?
I didn't mind the group. I just thought that they overly gave them too many handouts. I really believe you had the Wyatts, you had the Shield.
Oh, that was like the perfect setup though. That was like,
And they botched it to me.
I think the botch was not having them face each other at WrestleMania because they had them do it at Elimination Chamber, and I'm just like, you should save this for Mania, man. That's a Mania type match. Shield versus Bray versus the Wyatt family. That was a feud we wanted to see forever, man. Because they were the dominating groups. Like, I know you didn't mind the group, but dude, I'm telling you, I mean, look, as a teenager at that time, that's what they kept stories alive. They were fighting everybody. They were the big threat. Everyone's like, we got to take them out, and they couldn't.
I'm not
It was
saying they was
great.
trash. I'm not saying the Shield was trash. They weren't at all. They had great chemistry.
So what was the vendetta? So then what's
It
the
was
issue that you have?
my issue. My issue was they were overly handed everything, but
You
you
felt like they were
still
favoritism.
they were
Big
they were
favoritism.
favoritism
Mm.
because the Wyatts, they had equal opportunity to run through a roster too, but they weren't given the same type of reverence.
Mm.
That's what
Interesting.
that's what I was talking about. It was like it started to get to a point to where you could see they were focusing on specific people and everybody else was just kind of wandering around trying to get the people's attention. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
The
You
feuds
know.
are the feuds are super fast. They go and they come and go within 2-3 weeks. Once the pay-per-view is done, the Shield, Wyatts, that should have been like a whole year, 6 months type of a thing. They just blood. And they do that with most matches these days, though. So
Yeah. I see what you mean. Like they just set it up because people were demanding it. They're like, all right, here you go. Like they set up dream matches. That's what someone did in a retrospect video that they said, not for them, but like where they would do dream matches and it was just like one and dones or quick. Like Wyatt's and the Shield, I think they had the one match on TV, and then I think their second match was on main event, which was like a midweek show that was airing. I remember watching. I remember the week feeling pretty full. It was Monday Night Raw, then Wednesday main event for an hour, and then depending on when they decided to do it, Friday or Thursday Night SmackDown. That was all the wrestling that I saw at the time. I didn't know that they fought a second time in main event. That's how I see what you mean. Like it was like a throwaway. Because it's like what they fought a main event, like like outside of non-televised shows, like in non-TV shows and the house shows, the Shield wasn't winning a lot, but on TV they were winning all the time. I was like, oh, interesting. But I'm like, but it makes sense for them to win on TV. I didn't see the favoritism at the time. Even looking back, I don't because they all came from NXT, and you know, all those guys were Triple H's babies at this point. You know, he created that NXT environment for them to thrive, and I know that the compromise was, they wanted Roman Reigns instead of Chris. No, I think it was. I know his name is Chris. It was a wrestler that Punk suggested, but the company wanted Roman, and it worked. Wyatt's, I see what you mean looking back, but I do think they were both running rapid. I think it's just that they didn't allow each other to just intervene with each other. I felt like there should have been more like, yeah, I see what you mean. Like it should have been more of like tension. Like it should have been they're both trying to attack the same people, and then it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like that's my prey. Like like villains fighting over, like two bad guys fighting over the prey that they want. Like it could have been something like that for a little bit. But it's I forgot where I was going with this now.
No, you good.
Yeah,
I kind of went. I just went off a little bit with that. I was because my only point was at the end of the day, to me, I just don't see them. There's things that they probably could do, but it would take too long to catch up, and I don't think they're going to ever catch up to the stuff that I got to watch. Like I was spoiled coming up in the 80s, going into the 90s. I was spoiled. That's my problem. I got to see way too much. I was a crackhead when it came to Monday Night Raw. All I was watching everything.
Yeah.
But then when I started to see that, oh, this ain't what it was, I had to start backing out of it. But I still kind of keep my eye on certain stuff here and there. But
I think it's just like anything else. I think it's because we hit in that point in life where we look back and it's like, it's not like the good old days, and we start sounding like every other person before us. Like, you kids know nothing. Back in my day, we used to do this and that. Well, in my day, we had this. Like, in my day, wrestling was like up here in entertainment. Now it's just bleh. Like, we sound like that group now, like, which is ironic, but I think it's just like anything else. Everything has a peak and like I said before, a peak and a plateau. And I don't know. It's one of the few things on TV where it's not affected necessarily by anything artificial. And it's I could see the effort in trying to be innovative in a way that wasn't before but I think it's like try to bring back what worked without recreating without creating an error that you can't replicate, because some things are just going to be a piece of a piece of history. You can't bring back Dr. Thugonomics talking about the same stuff from 2001 and do that now, because it's a nostalgic act. Even The Rock, I heard people say that when they look back, when he came back and Cena was in his face, looking back, people believe that Cena was the better promo because Rock was relying on nostalgia too much. And apparently it showed. When they were fighting, I didn't see the promos at the time. I only wanted to see the match. And the match at WrestleMania. So I didn't see the promos at the time. But I saw videos later on. I was like, oh, so this is how they were going at it with each other. Because Cena was talking in a way that he wasn't before, where he was just kind of exposing Dwayne Johnson. He was calling by his real name. He was calling out his his cheat sheets, and you can see in his face like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Why are you doing that, bro?" He's like, "What? Do you need to see your promo on your wrist?" I was like, "Oh." He was calling out on his ego. I was like, "Oh boy." And I'm like, dang. I'm not gonna say nothing. I will say that I went to Raw and Barclays.
damn,
The Rock is like to be in this environment. I gotta see what it is about him being The Rock in an arena, and I was like, I could see what's up. He has the charisma. That's the thing. He has that vibe where you're like, even if you have like, oh, him again, you're just like, dang, he knows how to grab your attention again. But there's a lot of ego. And I will say this. Um, I think it's just there's a lot of TV stages for WWE. What's good? I meant to say this earlier, and I'm sorry for talking a lot, but I'll say this. This is the most for professional wrestling overall. This is very peak because as as an industry, whether you're independent or you are major leagues, you have an era that is the closest thing to being as productive, like productive wise, like the 90s, because you have WWE, AEW, you have TNA, you have Ring of Honor, you have a bunch of you have a bunch of options. Maybe as a performer, as a wrestler, they have a lot of places to go to. I think as an audience, in a way, we have a lot of stuff that we have the option to see. It's just a matter of what your flavor is, because everything outside WWE is seen as like, even though WWE runs the risk of being like the New York Yankees, where it's like you're gonna love or hate them. You have a love-hate relationship with them as a fan. I say the '90s, not in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Um, it has its amazing moments, but as far as like how the '90s had WCW, WWE, ECW, I think those are the major three. You had three major brands just going at it, trying to top one or the other, or just trying to be entertaining for people. Some stayed their lane. Two of them were trying to butt heads. Paul Heyman at the time was predicting the Monday Night Wars, as head of ECW. He was just like, I think they're gonna go at it. I think WWF is gonna destroy WCW, and that was in '95. That was right before they started going at it, and he saw the flaws into why. WWE, like anything else, can fall into that trap depending on who you're talking to. But I think it's just because they're established, it's easy to get a little comfortable. It's like, okay, we made it. Now, how do you maintain it? You know what I mean? AEW coming into the picture, I think, is a blessing because it gives them something to fight with. And it gives a very, I don't like to say alternative because TNA was the alternative back in the day. But I think AEW is still a bigger alternative in terms of scale because they sell out arenas like WWE does. They sell out arenas like what WCW was doing, and they have a old. I feel like they have a vibe that kind of reminds people of back in the day more so. Because the few times I saw it, even the quality and the way it looked like 2000s wrestling. Even though they have their own thing, it's just the vibe that they have is the closest thing to that nostalgic feeling without completely copying
Well, we'll see what happens.
it.
I wish them the best, all of them. A lot of
Yeah, man.
talent there. I'm the spoiled one, so I'm going to be extra critical of all of that stuff. I just thought it would be an interesting topic tonight.
Yeah.
I never really went there with it before, but I do appreciate you for pulling up and giving your 2 cents on everything, man. This was dope.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. It's good to talk about just different stuff, man. Just like fun stuff that we all could fight over. Usually it's other sports for most people, but for me, I'm like, no, wrestling works for me because I'm a artist. It's the perfect blend. Like it always feels like if if comic book came to a wrestling ring a little bit, when you have guys that actually wrestle or fight like comic book characters a little bit. For me, like when you have guys like Brock Lesnar and he can live up to the reputation of like being a beast or being like the closest thing to the Hulk, in my opinion, I'm like, I like that. That's fun. When they're like, oh shoot, you're gonna see two big dudes like Braun. I was gonna say Braun Breaker. I love that dude. I love that he is just like he is brolic and then he's speed. He's just my man's just fast. His spears are just crazy to see. The dude runs 23 miles an hour in the ring, and I'm just like always on the verge of just killing brothers there. And I hate that he doesn't get to face Brock Lesnar because he retired. I'm like, no, that was one guy you needed to fight. I love Obafemi, but that was one fight I wanted to see because Braun does things where it's like he's like Roman and Batista, but with a touch of like I want to say Kurt Angle because he does certain moves that the other guys just don't do. I like his style. So but I appreciate the topic.
We might have to revisit this at another point because I can think of a million different things to go into. Definitely a more lighthearted topic. Glad we could do it. Shout out to everybody who pulled up to join in, man. Y'all let me know in the comments how y'all feel. Do you agree, disagree with anything that was said here? Let's talk. But yeah, Friday is right around the corner. I hope your evening goes the way that you want it. I hope you close out the week the way that you want, bro. And we definitely gonna chop it up again.
Yeah, definitely, man. Always fun.
Yep.
Always fun.
Y'all be easy, man. I see y'all tomorrow evening. Do me a solid before you go.
What's the goddamn button?
Peace.
Later. Have a good night, y'all. God bless.
The flow insane. Take my spot, so the range. Shoot my shot with perfect aim. 3rd degree, that perfect flame. Ain't no sleep, that's the game. Oh, so southern, that's the slang. When they see me, that's the main. Chasing checks and fly like planes. Big old stick, I bought a cane. Flick my wrist and bought the ring. I'm so boss, we're not the same. Paid the cost and kept the change.